Thanks for subscribing to and downloading Plant Talk with your host, Fred Howard. Plant Talk is sponsored by Franklin Park Conservatory and Botanical Gardens in Columbus, Ohio, featuring exotic plant collections and displays, seasonal art and nature-based exhibitions, outdoor gardens, and a variety of educational programming. fpconservatory.org. Now, here's your host, Fred Howard.
Good morning, Ohio gardeners, and what an interesting morning it is. The radar appears to be clear, or is clear. However, as I look up toward the sky, there is not a ray of light as an individual thing. It is all haze, all overcast, and I'm a gambler. I have the top down on the car out in the lot, and we cannot see the lot from in here. So I'm having to hope that my gamble works. If it doesn't, I've said oh shucks before, but that's life. Now then, on the way down, and in that I had the top down, I could see what is a typical fall situation. Number one, when I got up, it was not sunny, so the days are getting much, much shorter in terms of daylight. The starlings are flocking. Now, I would say they're flocking in hundreds yet at this point instead of thousands. But it only takes about two of those, I'll call them clouds, of starlings to gather up and become by the hundreds of thousands real shortly. The abscission layer is forming on the leaves, and I think I promised to talk about that last week, and we just didn't get around to it in terms of time. So we'll talk about that. In the meantime, try to spell abscission, and we'll go from there when we get a chance.
If I knew there was going to be a test, I don't think I'd have shown up today, Fred.
Well, that's the way it has to be. And the only thing you can look forward to as being a fantastic change is that as we're getting cooler, colder, shorter days, south of the equator is coming summer. Think about that when you get cold here shortly.
Sitting alongside Fred Howard, I am Mark Neuse at our Plant Talk studios. If you'd like to join the conversation this morning, our toll-free number throughout the state of Ohio, 1-866-PLANT-TALK with two T's. That's 1-866-752-6882. And Fred, as we always do, we start off with what's in color.
Well, happily, quite a few things. Now, they're becoming more scarce, and I'm going to stay with flowers first, and then we'll talk a little bit about fruit, because this is becoming the time to count color in terms of fruit. But I went down through, around, and so on. Was only bitten by about 17 mosquitoes during the course of my trip. Boy, those little beggars are out thirsty right now. But anyhow, there were 22 things that were in color. I mentioned plumbago several weeks ago, I think even as the plant of the week, a really hot season, low, beautiful blue flower ground cover. Well, plumbago is down to just a few flowers. Now, it's one of those things that's happening. I have noted with interest that the plant lamium, which is a ground cover also, wonderful for shady areas, it has been in bloom, I believe, every week all summer long, which is fantastic. Now, in a couple of sports areas where they don't need a great big shrub border, plant called Russian sage, which I think I have honored was a plant of the week in time past. It's standing 3 and 4 feet tall, depending on the cultivar. Beautiful light blue, gray foliage, just enough of a screen so that you don't look into a parking lot and see the sun shining off the metal roofs of cars. Lots of things like that. So we appreciate them all. I mentioned last week the mums and asters, and then we turn to the fruit. The snowberry, coralberry, cornelian cherry dogwood, the flowering crabs, flowering hawthorns, pyracantha are all coming into beautiful fruit at this point, and much more to come as the fruiting season continues.
Once again, our toll-free number to join the conversation, 1-866-PLANT-TALK with two T's, or 1-866-752-6882. Just getting started this morning on Plant Talk. We're glad you joined us, and stick around.
This summer at Franklin Park Conservatory and Botanical Gardens, the gardens are in full color. Welcome its tropical and native butterflies in flight in the indoor Pacific Island Water Garden. View the conservatory's bonsai collection and experience the exhibition Origami in the Garden. Find details at fpconservatory.org.
And welcome back to the program. Mark Neuse here alongside Fred Howard, the Ohio nurseryman. And Fred, your plant of the week.
Well, the plant of the week is one that I know I have visited before and possibly each year. I find it so very outstanding in some interesting ways. It is by name Sweet Autumn Clematis. The Sweet Autumn is autumn because it flowers right now, probably at peak bloom in most places at this point in time. And the sweet part is on a calm, let's just say 70, 75 or so degree evening, or for that matter, part of the day. It is extremely but softly fragrant. A strong wind will kind of blow it on by, but if you're just simply out on the patio and it's near and a little wind or a little breeze, I should call it, wafts by, you will definitely notice that plant. It is a climber. And a rampant climber once it gets going. Now, I have an old plant that is spread out 25, 30 feet wide up across the top of a fence, and then it goes 15, 18 feet up into a hawthorn and a flowering crab and something else. But it doesn't matter other than the fact that it's in bloom right now, and those plants happen to flower, that is, the ones it's climbing in, happen to flower twice. Their natural time in the spring, and then the time of year right now when it is coming up through. I have used the plant on top of fences, a little, let's just say, a modest challenge to keeping it on the top of a fence, because it does grow quite rapidly. However, a little wrapping, twining every couple of weeks as you walk by, you can keep it right in that position. You can grow it up guard wires on telephone poles, although that doesn't always please the company personnel and so on. But it's a fantastic plant. Any decently drained soil, preferably full sun, but it can also handle a considerable amount of shade, or let's just say dimming of the light, especially as it grows up through inside of some of these trees that are definitely going to put a 50% shade on it.
And let's go to the phone lines and say good morning to Ron. Ron, good morning. Welcome to Plant Talk.
Hello.
Hi, Ron. How can we help you?
Well, I've got an old asparagus patch. It's probably 25 years old, and grass has taken over.
Okay.
I was wondering what I could do with that.
Well, I'm not sure I have all the answers on that. Well, all right. Asparagus and grasses pretty much grow at the same time, starting in the spring and so on. However, at this point in time, at least the few asparagus plants that I have pretty well dissipated, dried down, and so on. I would say any time shortly, when I would check the plants and I find them brown to the ground, then I can go in, and the grasses being still in pretty much full growth, as a matter of fact, one of their best times of year to grow, and I could spray lightly. And this is one of those things you have to be careful of. I normally tell people to use a droplet-type sprayer when they are using Roundup on something. In this case, you're going to have to kind of move through the asparagus stems to get to the grass, so you might, assuming that you can adjust your nozzle, you might go with partly droplet and partly as spray mist. Not much mist, and if you do choose to mist, then I would definitely do it at a time of day when there's limited air movement, and that would be, of course, early morning and later in the evening. Now, I also know that some grasses are persistent enough you have to spray 2 or 3 times. This is not necessarily a negative, but let's just say that right now we wait till the 1st of October, which is just a week, well, or so. We then spray, give it 10 days, spray again, and another 10 and spray again. That'll take you through October into November. And by then, even though the grasses may not show death as such, there will be a good chance that they've imbibed enough of the Roundup to take it to the root, kill the root, or damage the root heavily, and go from there. The happy part of it is, you won't be touching live parts on the asparagus. It's just the way the material enters the plant. As soon as it touches the ground, it's well, I call it discombobulated. I'm not a chemist, but it breaks down right quickly then. And then when you spray the 3rd time, it's going down through the stems of the grass into the crowns, the rhizomes, and so on, and hopefully dying. And then what the beauty of it is, the cross between the root of a grass and the root of an asparagus are totally unlikely. That is, they won't normally graft onto each other. Now, two asparagus will, two grasses will, but I don't think you're going to get contact. So that's my answer, short of digging the entire patch early next spring or right away, literally using a hose and your hand, pull out the grasses, wash off the roots, and reestablish the bed. I know that to be done by several people because they've got some handsome old plants, but man, that can be, well, it depends on the length of the row. That can be a little difficult.
Yeah, I've done that before, and I'm 71 years old, and I don't want to do that again.
Ron, I think I can appreciate that in the respect to age and the desire to do something like that again. I would try the spring, and as I say, I may not have all the answers even yet, but give that a shot and see what happens. If the asparagus isn't, well, dead in the tops, and it happens to die, forget you know my phone number.
And Ron, thanks so much for the call this morning on Plant Talk. Again, our toll-free number is 1-866-PLANT-TALK with two T's, or 1-866-752-6882. More from Fred up next.
This summer at Franklin Park Conservatory and Botanical Gardens, the gardens are in full color. Welcome its tropical and native butterflies in flight in the indoor Pacific Island Water Garden. View the conservatory's bonsai collection and experience the exhibition Origami in the Garden. Find details at fpconservatory.org.
And welcome back to the program. Mark Neuse here alongside Fred Howard, the Ohio nurseryman. And you can always email Fred a question. Just go to our website, which is planttalkradio.com. Click on the Ask Fred button and type in your question. Or, of course, you can always call us during the program, 1-866-PLANT-TALK with two T's. And Sandy's on the line with us. Good morning, Sandy.
Good morning.
How can we help you, Sandy?
I have a question. I have a new strawberry patch that I planted probably midsummer, and I'm wanting to know what I can use to kill the weeds because the weeds are taking over, and I have pulled and pulled and pulled, and I think 10 grow right after me. So is there something I can use on this to kill these weeds?
Sandy, I in that we're dealing with an edible crop that is indeed different than when we were talking to Ron about asparagus tops dying off. The strawberries won't be. I, therefore, am, let's just say, handicapped here in thinking or even knowing what to speak to on that. I'm going to have to suggest that you call the Ag Department at Ohio State or more, especially the Extension Service. Each county, are you calling from Franklin County?
No, I'm calling from Defiance County.
Okay. Well, they will have, and I'm almost certain that of this, they have a good extension service up there from Ohio State. I don't happen to know the parties that are available up in that area, but give that a try because I just don't have a good line of thought other than to understand completely about this business. By the time you get to the end of the row pulling weeds, they've started at the front of the row again. And
exactly.
That's extremely aggravating. I don't know. Other than you may, well, I'm going to stop there. I just will tell you that strawberries, for one, can be mulched with loose straw over the winter. That may help dampen some of the weed growth, but it depends on what the weeds are. If they are seeds. If they're coming from seeds, such as crabgrass, foxtail, that kind of thing, they're going to die off here with the first heavy freeze. Some of the perennial grasses won't, but when you have annual types of things, they're going to die off and be done. Then next spring, and I would want you to read a package label, but, no. The
preen.
Preen. Thank you. I'm glad you pay attention, Mark, and can read the blank spots in my mind. Preen. There is preen alone, preen with fertilizer, which wouldn't be a bad thing, I don't think, for your strawberries at this point. Preen, however, would be a seed stopper as far as growth is concerned. You would not apply it now, or at least I don't think there'd be any advantage this late in the season. But very early next spring, be it late March, very early